Thanks,
our
Scott.
live streaming info.
Yeah. Usually when they have their offices.
You good? All right.
That was a piece.
We did have a handful of people that asked for our agenda doesn't include public comment, but we have a handful of people here that wanted to offer some input in regards to, I presume, our council meetings, because this is going to be it's rules of council. So one of them is coming forward and offering some bullet points for us to consider as we start our meeting. Cole, would you like to share?
Thank you. Very briefly, I appreciate being given the opportunity to speak. My name is Cole Shenley. I live at 615 Ohio Street. So we would like our suggestions, which are strictly around the rules of council, would be remove naming your address in public, bringing back Zoom comments or internet comments for people who can't have to attend virtually. The prayer and meeting addressed so that it's more inclusive for all faiths or people of no faith. Being able to address council as individuals. Being able for council to address us and have the time paused while the council is talking to us. For having every member of council to provide some kind of actual report for their committee. For the changing of meeting times, so to have 2 evening meetings rather than 1 morning meeting and 1 afternoon meeting, and have the time set to earlier in the day, like say 6 or 6:30. Mandate department heads attend city council meetings. Having the pronouns updated throughout the ordinances, because everything is like he or she rather than having they, them. So we'd like to have they, them included in those, in the language. And for there to be the possibility to have a petition, have a study session by citizens if some threshold is met, so that we can have, if the city wants to have people come to talk, we'd like that. That's all. Thank you.
Hey, so since this is a little bit off this is a little outside, the petition for study session thing, just out of some curiosity on that, what would that be?
So like, say like you got a percentage of the citizens in the city could be 200, 300, 500. I mean, we don't have a firm number. But the idea being that, if, the way that you guys have done stuff, say with like the Green Garden bikeway thing, enough people can raise some hell. You guys end up having some group meetings around that. Same with like the bridge over by my house with the, that kind of thing. So that, because those are focused around, to be frank, like wealthier people's problems, if, poor people in the city would have the opportunity to have some ability to get a meeting on the books in a similar fashion. We appreciate that.
Okay. Thanks for your input.
Thank you. Appreciate you letting us speak.
All right. So this is a study session regarding Article 112, Rules of Council. It was mainly brought together out of concern of not having enough time in caucus or enough time between caucus and the meeting for us to fully address what the issues would be. But there's also, as Cole offered, there's a handful of other areas in this that would be interesting to address as well. Oh, hey, thanks. All right. So really, it's just an open floor on discussing that. We can't take any straw polls on it. I mean, I think the wisest thing to do would be to start at 12.01 and to work our way through with any areas of concern that we think we can do better at. The first one in that is the regular meeting times. Now, we just heard from a citizen that they wanted all evenings. I remember historically it used to be weekly and in the mornings, and I was actually just talking to an old council member about this last Friday. But it used to be weekly in the mornings, and there was a whole bunch of teachers that had issue with that back then. There was like 3 teachers on the council. So that's when they switched to 1 evening, 1 morning, and and they have since also we've since also gone to first and third Wednesdays. I have heard a lot of concerns about the evening ones starting too late.
Yes.
Is that something that anyone feels any particular way about?
Seems like it's okay with me. I don't see a problem with it.
That you don't see a problem changing it to earlier, or that
I don't see no problem with leaving it as it is.
okay.
I think it does, it's difficult, especially when we have a long meeting or a very full meeting. 7:30 is quite late. And I will say for the morning meeting, yes, it is understandable that, some of us work other jobs, some of us do not. But that morning meeting, one, it always has lower attendance. And two, it's extremely difficult for those of us who do work 9 to 5 to make those adjustments, to both be on council and be able to show up in present at that morning meeting. I would love to see at least an earlier meeting at 7:30, but I'm also curious about the possibility of 2 evening meetings. Just simply for participation, for accommodating the fact that council is extremely part-time.
I do appreciate having a morning meeting, especially with our staff.
Yeah.
Making it here. A lot of times we get presentations and stuff with the professionals that you're referring to during the morning meetings.
Yeah.
And it gives us at least options. I know for the longest time, I was waiting tables and bartending. I would have never made it to a second shift one, but the fact that we have 2 different options, at least it broadens it out, even if we have less participation in the morning.
And if I recall correctly, when we were going over the budget, the cost of the the meetings for
Yeah.
overtime
Yeah.
starts incurring a lot higher the more that we require the morning staff to come in at night. So that was a factor on why we make sure that we have everything in the agenda done that Wednesday morning prior to when we have to have the agenda done, to have time with the clerk's office and the solicitors.
I mean, I don't know about making it even earlier, because like, what if I'm a person who likes to come to city council meetings when I work till 5:30, 6 o'clock, and you start starting at 6? I can't come because I go home, get my take the kids home, do this, that. You give people some time in between. When you start them at 7, you give people who work till
7:30.
7:30. You give people time
Yeah.
to do what they got to do and still come to the meeting. You start starting at 5. I think you're going to cut into those people who do like to come, because now they don't have time to do anything in between.
I wouldn't mind sneaking it up a little bit, though, because we've had some 11 o'clock nights.
I can say I wouldn't
like a
oppose
6:30
starting at
start
7, at 7 as opposed to 7:30.
7 would be okay.
Yeah, 5 would be too early, I think. For
Because we have to have our financial meeting.
Yeah, we do finance
Yeah.
meetings on Wednesdays beforehand and caucus, so making sure we have enough time for both.
So, yeah, so that
Although,
was-
if we discuss caucus further, then maybe we can bump it back to 6:30 even.
Yeah.
Because there'd be no caucus.
Right. Yeah, especially if there's no caucus beforehand that day.
But that's something to be discussed, I
Right.
think, on literally the next point.
Yep.
Is there any other discussion or ideas anyone wants to offer to the schedule of meetings?
Not necessarily the schedule of meetings. I know you brought up prior that we weren't following the holiday schedule. Was that something that we wanted to start implementing?
Yeah.
For Thanksgiving and Christmas? I mean, that's budget time, so technically we're going to be in many meetings anyways at that time, so.
Oh, yeah, thanks for catching that. So one of the things by ordinance is that we have the Wednesday, so the third Wednesday of the month, before Thanksgiving and before Christmas is supposed to be a day meeting. And we never actually do that. It's been evening meetings for a while now.
At least for our 2 years that we've been
Yeah,
here.
yeah. So that's something that would have to get struck from the ordinance, just since, so we either have to
Well, I
start
think-
doing it by the ordinance, or we have to change the
I
ordinance.
think it's actually a great action item to start following. Then people can be released until, especially with it being like the day before Thanksgiving, or
Especially if they're going out of
It's a
town.
whole week before Thanksgiving.
it's the week before
Yeah.
Thanksgiving. But, and, well, Christmas, it'll be probably the week before then also.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I don't disagree. I think, people's evenings are especially tied up during those times. And if they can squeak out 2 morning meetings and then free up their evening time,
Go out of town with family.
that I think it might be.
My biggest fear with changing it to match the ordinance is, as we heard some of the constituents talking about, that's budget season, and that would not be giving us an evening meeting during budget season for
Yeah.
citizens to be heard.
That's my concern, because then we're saying the whole month of November and the whole month of December, we will have no evening
Evening.
meetings.
Right.
Which will be here on Tuesday and Thursday. Probably anyway.
Right, but we're giving no opportunity.
I think it's a great idea. I just, he suggested switching it in the month of November, December, but then it also starts complicating things if we do it like that.
Right, and it's not the week of Thanksgiving.
No.
Right.
It
So
is
it'd be
the week before,
before.
like, it is,
Right.
is
Then
it
we'll let-
necessary? And we haven't been doing it.
Okay. So you like how it's operating now generally? And we can't take votes on this. That's the,
Just the week before.
Yeah, exactly. If it's not being enforced, then why keep it? Yeah. And then the public can rely on the fact that the meetings are at the same time every month.
yeah. All right.
Those of us who are not seated on council permitted to offer any insight.
Oh, yeah, you're a guest here.
So there are just, I guess, 2 thoughts that are immediately popping into head that I going back to one of the things that Cole had shared earlier, just being cognizant of this is really leaning into one religion that we're taking into consideration.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And then the other element of this being, if you're looking at the meeting times, the city school board is consistently meeting at the exact same time that council is meeting with one of their public spaces. So you're going to be dividing up the public on where they can pay attention.
Oh, yeah, you were on school board. They
I
do
was,
the
yes.
first and third, just like us?
No, they do is it second and third? It's one of the meetings always overlaps. I will Google it while we're sitting here
Their
right
evening
now so I can
meeting
compare it.
overlaps.
But
It's
you're
the
always
evening meeting.
and they're always evening meetings.
It's 6 o'clock on that same Wednesday
So
usually.
you're always
I believe.
splitting where people can go.
Should probably coordinate that.
Yeah, if you could Google that real quick.
Yes. Just for the record, I'm not currently on school board, so it's not me forgetting one of my
Yeah, no,
duties.
no,
Okay.
no.
I just-
It's been a couple
It's been
of
like
years.
2 years.
yes.
Yeah, Brzezinski will probably be texting me and letting me know when it is. All right, so we can come back to that for a second, or in a bit. Because it may just make sense then to flip so that we have a evening at the beginning of the month and morning second half of the month if it's a matter of avoiding school board.
Like permanent for the entire year.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the cool
It
thing.
appears it's the first and the second.
It's the first.
The
and
first
second.
Wednesday, the second Wednesday. It's the first and the second Wednesday of each month.
Oh, so it's not affecting anything right now?
So if your second meeting, oh no, yeah, your
Yeah, because
No,
first
'cause
is
first
morning,
is
third is
morning.
evening.
So I guess it's,
So it shouldn't be,
yes. So, but I would just, I guess, as you're scheduling it, just know that
There's
some
sometimes-
there are some times they're going to overlap
Sometimes they do have a meeting at the same time.
Okay.
because of the committee of the whole and everything.
All right, we keep ours consistent, so that's on them adding separate meetings. That's on them. All right, the thing that brought us all together, caucus meetings. 30 minutes before council meetings. There's been some suggestion that we need a little more time for that.
So the reason why I brought that up is because I spoke to people who were on city council outside of Erie. And I asked them questions like, hey, they were like, well, every Monday, let's say they have a meeting on Wednesday. Every Monday, they have an agenda meeting. And they go over every item on the agenda. That way everybody in the room is clear exactly everything is, what you're voting on, blah, 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 blah. I think we should do that and just make sure everybody's very clear on everything. Because, so like if you work first shift and you're on city council and city hall's open for a shift, you don't necessarily have time to make calls, to be calling people, discussing stuff. I can't do that as a principal. If I'm calling city hall for city council stuff, I can get myself in a jam.
Yeah.
So we need to be, have some time where we can all sit down and whoever needs to be here to explain to us everything that's on that agenda. That's what other places are doing. You know, I mean, maybe it's the Monday before the meeting.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, we currently have Tuesdays and Thursdays set aside to be able to have
Oh, yeah, okay, we can do
study
that. Yep.
sessions. We could possibly do the Tuesday prior to the meeting, but that's a discussion for all the council to decide upon. Would that be taking away from our current caucus time and then possible future presentations? Would we be requiring people to come to that Tuesday meeting to do a presentation, or would we still have a little bit of time for presentations, I guess is the
I
question.
mean, you could probably use that time since you're doing, you know, if you did the caucus like, I don't know, Tuesday, like you're saying, right, for an hour and 15 minutes, then you wouldn't really need to do the caucus. The caucus time could be used for something else, whatever you want to use it for, you know. But then everybody's clear. Nobody's coming in the day of a meeting. What's this?
Not
What's
sure
that?
what they're
It's
voting on.
everybody's clear.
Oh, I'll tell you, we're going to get to it a little bit later, but I mean, the moment that really sticks out, I think caucus has had a variety in the time we've been in here. And I think that some of it's going to change again next year with the dynamics of the group changing. To the point where I'm actually, I think a half an hour might be plenty next year. We've been pretty good with our time, most of it this year. But the thing that I really remember, it was one of those wake up moments. Well, you've been on it before, so I guess it's just you. But school board, same thing. Was that I remember Brzezinski asking a question about something like February or March, and then me looking around wondering who was going to answer it, and then realizing it was something that I was sponsoring. It was one of the bills out of Public Works, and I was the liaison to Public Works. So I remember looking at that being like, oh, my name's on the top of this paper. I'm supposed to be the one who can answer that. And I don't know the answer out of my committee responsibilities. And from that point on, I started having the department that I was the liaison to giving me like itemized, like annotated explanations for every single thing that I was sponsoring. And I got that every Friday before the agenda came out. I usually had that from Public Works. And it was, sometimes it was a 6-page document, sometimes it was a 1-page document, depending on the items. But a lot of the answers we're looking for in caucus meetings, I think, are stuff that on Friday we should be able to look at the agenda, and if we were a little cleaner about who the liaisons were to departments, we would be like, oh, I'll go ask Susanna about this police issue, and then count on her to actually know that. I think one of my biggest frustrations in the last year and 9 months is knowing whose job it is. Like, I just want to do my job. I don't want to be responsible for other people's information and knowledge, and that's the spot that sometimes I get caught is, and especially this year as president, when we go through the agenda, I go through agenda meetings like what you're talking about. Today's agenda meeting lasted 20 minutes. They went through all of the points real quick. We've got an easy agenda coming out this week, in my opinion. And then other times I hear the agenda and I say, hey, Chris, you really got to explain what these transfers are coming from, write them itemized. But most of it, 95% of it, I think you wouldn't need to know. Not need to know, but you.
Care to know?
Yeah. All of these adjectives are bad to describe how we feel about our job in public and private.
I hear you on that and the process. My concern, for example, as public safety liaison, is that I actually don't get CC'd on all of the police ordinances. So I see them once the agenda comes out. So what is the commitment or accountability that we can put in place that each of us within our committee responsibilities actually see all of those things before they make it to the agenda meeting?
And this is one of those, and I think it plays out in how we vote. And so we had a vote a few months ago about the shot spotter, and you were the liaison to that committee, and you said you didn't have enough information for it yet. So I voted with you on the tabling it. Not because, like, you never turn down money is kind of the rule of thumb on council. And, but, you know, I voted with you to make sure I voted in favor of tabling it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, if our liaison to that department doesn't know, then I really can't vote. You know, so there's a challenge that I think we would need to just hold our ground and make sure that our committee people know what we're voting on, so that we would have a well-informed council. And I think at times we don't on that.
I feel like everybody should know everything, not like have to be one person have responsibility of you informing the council. If I'm a football guy, so like if I'm the offensive coordinator, I want my running backs coach to know what I'm thinking, to like know the whole game plan, not just I'm hiding the game plan, and if they need to know, they come to me. I want you to know the whole game plan while I'm doing it, why you're teaching them that, why she's teaching them that, because it all comes together as one. But if I'm the only one that's like, you know, they're not gonna know unless they ask me. I mean, I think everybody should be in the know of everything that's on that agenda.
So I agree with actually both of them. I think that, you know, best case scenario, they would communicate with somebody on council when they want to put something on the agenda. And then paired with an expanded caucus, then people would have time to look at those line items and decide whether they, A, need more information, B, need the department heads to come in and reach out to us, or if any other action needs to be taken.
I just had an idea. The agenda meeting happens on Thursday.
Thursday morning.
So the agenda is finalized.
Everything has to be into the clerk's office by 11:30 by ordinance. It's in this thing. 11:30 on Friday.
On Friday.
And then I approve it Thursday afternoon or Friday morning. This week it's Friday morning.
Okay.
And then it gets sent out once I approve it.
It's Thursday at noon.
Thursday at noon.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So could it potentially be our Thursday time even before the Wednesday? Because then that gives you the time to call the department heads, to talk to different people. Just an hour of caucus Thursday at 5:30, leading, so that way we have 6 days, I mean, minus the weekend, but we have 6 days to say, here's our agenda. We have a depth of understanding of it, and we can still have time to do whatever we need to do
There'd be a lot of pressure on our administrative staff in our office.
for the clerk's office.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a reason why I haven't approved the agenda yet. If this was an agenda meeting right now, that would be a challenge.
If we moved it up a day, so everything had to be in by Wednesday at noon, so we could do that.
Yeah. The agenda includes a lot of bills and stuff that gets paid. So there's half of the agenda meeting today was them talking about the logistics of where the pressure is throughout the office. Like the bills to be paid all go through the finance department. So they need them on Tuesday. So if we just keep bumping everything back, then the stuff that we're voting on Wednesday needs to be written out and submitted the Monday, 10 days early.
Right,
And sometimes bills come up quicker than that.
right.
So I think the schedule as it is now is tight on that. Caucus being on a Monday or Tuesday, I think could be something worth discussing though.
Yeah, I'm curious about a Tuesday, 5:30 to 6:30.
But if it's a morning meeting, it'll still give us limited time.
Right.
So
Or Monday.
I usually don't take meetings on Mondays.
I also, we do have it blocked off, and we can, with 24 hours notice, have a special meeting to go over it when we have tough agendas.
And we assume they're all tough. So we don't, who's tough? Who defines tough?
I think we know which meetings are going to be tough.
I mean, I don't know who defines, it's like saying, assuming that a kid knows something, like let's make sure they know. I don't know. Just my opinion, man.
Yeah, no.
It's a good thing we all get the vote, huh?
I do think, Chuck, like in one of the things that you had just shared, I'm going to keep referencing back to the school board. When we knew that there was going to be an exorbitant amount of either public comment or there was going to be issues with the agenda laid out, we would often schedule that meeting with a special meeting so that we wouldn't have to. I think it interrupts public comment and it interrupts citizen feedback when you're cutting people short or you're jamming too many things on, because then you're going into 11:30, 12 at night, and no one's paying attention at that point. So if you know that sometimes separating it out might be another, kind of going back to what you said.
This is just a bit of a curveball with things, but if the agenda is finalized by Friday morning at the very latest, would even like a Friday lunchtime meeting be a possibility?
Everything's a possibility. We get to make the rules.
I'm going to be that annoying one over here in the corner, but just the way my brain operates. Can you walk me through a little, just the timelines? Because my brain's not fully grasping when you're saying like this time and the just the way.
Timeline for how something gets
Yes.
for council to vote on it.
Yes.
So it's almost all budget stuff, and that's what we have really
Mhm.
control over. If it's legislation or ordinances, then it just has to be with a sponsor and a second by Thursday at noon. If it's submitted to the clerk's office.
To go on for that following Wednesday.
Yep, yep, so that's legislation. Typically, that's a bad way to do it. Typically, it should be going through our subcommittees, and it should be reviewed, and the solicitor should be reviewing it. We have solicitor meetings every Wednesday that we don't have council meetings, so the president and vice president do that. And it should be circulated among council. So that's how it should be legislated. But for the budget, coming from the different departments, they have to have it written and brought to purchasing by Tuesday. She compiles it all and brings it to finance. They do the orders on that through the day Wednesday. It gets submitted for the agenda meeting on Thursday morning. So all of the little PDFs we get of all the different memos, they basically put those in a slideshow, and all the department heads, the mayor, his chief of staff, and council president go through all of those different memos, one by one. In most cases, it's $3,000 for chlorine for this water treatment plant, and it's, and then every once in a while there's $300,000 for stormwater retention on our downtown streetscape. And when we get that one, it's like, hey, little stormwater, everyone's gonna ask questions about that. Public Works can get more detailed memo on that, and that's just, so when you talk about the different coaches making sure that everybody knows everything, our system right now is that the president gets to know everything, and that the rest of the information and responsibilities don't disseminate out very well, which is why I'm thrilled to have this meeting. I don't think that I don't think the role of president is correct amount of burden on this council. That's why they all go. Yeah. That's why they all get stressed by it.
Thank you.
So I just didn't check my email last hour. I did get the agenda sent to me at 4 o'clock.
One additional question about caucus meetings. It states that administrative personnel and individuals approved by city council can attend, but is it not also that members of the public can attend but not make, like they can fly on the wall essentially?
It's a public meeting.
Right. Should that be clarified at all in there, or that's an assumption?
Deputy Solicitor, do we need to state that the public's allowed to be there? It was referenced in an Erie Reader article last month.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because, I mean, it's in there with, you may want to put something in there that says that, because all under, .01, that caucus meetings, regular meetings are held, essentially back to back, and the public is welcome. You can probably clarify that. I think.
But I often ask different department people to come, like when we were doing the planning contract, to outsource that. That was one where, when we went through the agenda meeting, I said it'd be good to have someone from planning,
Absolutely.
make sure Aaron Carey and Renee were ready to explain that process well. But I feel like on that one, if we had a planning department liaison, they should have made that request. All right, are we good on 12.01 for now? Place of meeting, do we want to change it?
No.
So, question.
Yeah.
So I know the county takes their show on the road like every summer. Just throwing it out there. We don't have to be here, in theory. If we change.
No, this is a city council that is elected at large in the city. Why would we want to change the location? Most people don't even know where our city hall is.
I was just throwing it out there. Some people can't get downtown.
I don't think they do that anymore, do they?
We have done
They
that
do
in the
move on.
past. Yes. We've met at JFK, we met at Booker T as a council meeting.
I like that. Was that just a one-off?
A regular council meeting.
That would be neat to do like in the summertime.
All right. Sorry, Mike, I was laughing, but it's being taken seriously and has some
Summer
good
tour.
benefit.
In the community centers.
Yeah.
My only question, is there any concern about security?
Should be.
I mean, I'm just here,
Yep,
the
yep.
one meeting we had, it was really long and late. It's
Mhm.
not proper. I know that person was known as
That
to
is
not
true.
be dangerous, but the brick,
That
it
did
freaked me
happen.
out a little bit.
Yeah.
So there's a brick in the lobby.
This was painted.
This was painted.
I didn't know if it was fluorescent, but
All right.
I'm just throwing it out there.
So the idea of so maybe changing the except in the case of emergencies to something that would be a little more, giving freedom and, unless by like unanimous consent that we meet somewhere else in the summer. And I do think it'd be kind of fun to take it on the road in the summer for our evening meeting and meet at the different community centers. I could dig that idea.
That might get us some brownie points.
That's also the area that prohibits signs and placards. I'm cool keeping that the case.
Yes,
All right, sorry.
Yeah.
All right. And no endorsements, obviously. Executive sessions by sunshine law requirements, I imagine we can't mess with that. Special meetings, 24-hour notice, that's all sunshine law stuff for the most part anyways. Does anyone have any concerns about special meetings?
I mean, I don't think we've had one since we've all been on council, this
The
group.
housing one was a special
Oh, the
meeting.
housing one?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was because it couldn't be a committee meeting because we ran out of time with the different timelines of getting things submitted.
The comment on the previous page on 12.01, I think that's addressed in 12.05, that all meetings are open to the public. So,
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're considering caucus a meeting.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, is that clear?
No, it's a sound reading, I'm reading it very literal. So meetings open to the public, all regular and special meetings. But in 12.01, it says
Caucus.
A is regular meeting, and B is caucus meetings.
Okay.
But like,
So maybe we need
12.01,
to add caucus.
I would just add caucus meetings to 0.05.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I mean, it's just the way
We
it's-
might need to put a little, like, asterisk that, space available. But, because we had a couple issues where there were a lot of people here, and if they tried to pile into our caucus room, it would overwhelm the room. So.
I don't know, is that even something we could really state, or does that start becoming?
Is that legal?
Out here.
I mean, like you would just move out into the chambers.
If we got to that point, I would think.
We would move to the chambers, I feel like.
Fair enough.
That's what I think we do.
All right. And as Tyler was asking, now we're on to 12.06, submission of ordinances and resolutions.
You mentioned, oh, go ahead.
I want to really point out that last sentence. All resolutions submitted to council and prepared by any individuals, groups, or organizations that have not been reviewed by council and its solicitor shall automatically be tabled for at least one meeting prior to any vote being taken on such resolutions. Just pointing that out as to when we don't have adequate information, we should be strong on the table, in my opinion.
And when we say reviewed by council, does that simply mean a copy of the resolution was distributed to every member, or does it have to be more than that?
All those memo emails.
That counts.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I think that also, so if it came from a group or outside of council or outside of the government, that it should, when we go to caucus, we definitely have to have those people in caucus or know, what it's about, what the genesis was, what the intentions of it are, before we can, consider it. So I agree with that. And so I also agree that, it should be like, they should come to caucus, the time in advance before when they want any action or submittal.
Here's my question in follow-up to that. I see a potential of stacking a caucus meeting so that new groups or groups that perhaps the council doesn't agree with can never get on the agenda or opportunity to speak if you're requiring them to come to caucus prior to them submitting an ordinance for review. I think that puts a lot of faith, in council to permit those people time to present that ordinance.
I mean, in any case, it needs to be a member of council. And
Right.
a
Yeah,
second on
right,
council.
before we even get to see it.
Right. I'm just saying that was just if we were going to require that group to come to caucus before they were allowed to even move it forward. I get what everyone is saying. I'm just saying if we added the addendum in there that they had to come to the caucus prior.
I think it's almost always from City Hall staff for 95%. So very limited circumstances.
All right.
So just as a footnote, we did have outside people sponsor or want to sponsor action, or ordinances two in general was one of the environmental, what do you call them? Environmental advisory committee
council,
and stuff. And so those things took about 6 months in order to actually get crafted, get approved. If you're going with an ordinance as opposed to a resolution, it has to be vetted by, an attorney and go through the city systems, and then, make sure it doesn't conflict with any other laws. So there's a lot to that if you were trying to sponsor an ordinance as opposed to a resolution.
Not to be that one took years. It was
When I say 6 months,
Environmental caucus.
I'm just
and
wanting people to know that it just doesn't, an outside agency just doesn't walk up and say, this is the new law.
And the way that frankly got done was that we talked to Mr. Betzler to draft something up. I went through and I edited it as I wanted to, and then I shared it with Jasmine. She and I first and seconded it, sent it to the clerk in Betza as a first and second, said put this on the agenda this week. And that's how it got on the agenda. The president never approved that one, or we didn't have any further feedback. We just pushed that on in December because I'd gotten sick of waiting for it. So so when we look at how long things have taken, now for that to be up and running, their first meeting is the same time as our first CRIS meeting. So certain things move along at the rate at which, Things move along at different rates.
Exactly. Whoever prioritizes them.
Me pushing that on onto an agenda in December, and then us not putting together the actual committee until June or July was probably an example of me rushing it on the front end or other people holding it up on the back end. Manner of voting. I've gotten a little bit of pushback about this, that when we don't say anything, it's presumed to be a yes. Do you guys want to force us to say yeses or nos?
No.
Great. I'll take the lack of any other response in the affirmative.
He looks like he's ready to hit someone.
We can just say that.
Can I ask for clarification on that one? Just how it got to be where you don't have to say your vote.
So in 1966, yeah, I don't know. I'd actually talked to an old timer about this too, and they said, it used to be the other way around. We never said no's, but we always said yeses. And now I'm reading the ordinance, and I'm like, that guy wasn't doing it right back in the 90s. So I don't know how that's
So I think it may have done with the panel also, that there's buttons
That we don't use.
Yeah.
that we don't
How we
use.
use
So
it?
no one would still have to verbally
People probably messed it up.
say yea or nay.
It works.
But
Yeah, but still here.
Yeah.
you can't see your vote though once you push the button. You don't know if you push
Yeah.
it.
You don't know if you push the right one, and make a mistake, push the wrong
So we
one.
probably have to have little stickers put yes, no, so that
Well,
people
we
know.
got stickers up there,
Once upon a
and
time.
if you want to vote yes, but for some reason it said no, you still have time to change it. That has happened.
We end up practicing that at the beginning and the end of every year with every president. And, that's on me. I just haven't done it for 9 months now. But if you guys want to play with the buttons, do that.
For example, I can say, Mr. President, call for the tote board. That's all that need to be done. And then we use the tote board.
So any council member can call for the tote board?
Yes.
Okay. So motion to call for the tote board.
So we get to vote last in that case? Wait a minute.
You vote last, nobody gonna know until you hit the switch.
But I don't know what the other votes are ahead of me. Mr. Witherspoon.
W.
The other thought I have there is, if it's I guess being inclusive to those who take in information in different ways. If we're not casting a vote up, like and we have people who can't see, who are blind, I guess it's just making sure we're being cognizant.
The clerk does read all the votes
Okay.
afterwards.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Great. Now someone's gonna call for the tote board, and I gotta make sure I know how to use it next Wednesday.
Because we're doing that.
All right. Any other comments on that? Okay. Minutes of meetings. That's. Anyone have anything to say about that? All right. Agendas. All reports, communications, ordinances, resolution, contracts. Thursday at noon.
I wanted to ask, is it possible for us to be able to get our agenda posted to the city website like the county does their county council meetings?
Where it has, like, you can link to all the ordinances, all the resolutions, like, to have full transparency of what is on the agenda, is the county's already doing that.
Yeah. And we have a new website coming in the next few
Okay.
months.
Okay,
So, I would expect that to be
Yeah.
part of it. We can continue to ask for it.
right, because we are stating all reports, communication, ordinances, resolutions, and it is not currently that way, that you can access all of them.
Yeah. Are you doing another award this Wednesday?
Yes.
All right. Is everyone comfortable with the president arranging the agenda? All right. That's coming in. Any ordinance or resolution which is not appearing on the agenda may also be considered by an affirmative waiving of rules with 5 votes. That's some good old Robert's Rules of Order.
Yeah, we heard that that's no longer an ability of the council because of the sunshine.
If it has to do with money, we're allowed to do it. We did it for a resolution last June, June of 22. That's the only time I think it's been done in my time on the council.
Should that specify any, like, just add like non-financial ordinance or resolution?
Do we want to put something in conjunction, do we need to make reference to the sunshine law in that?
I don't think necessarily that, but I think if you guys, your whole purpose here is to kind of streamline and modernize what you're doing. So if you want to, I think Susanna's suggestion of like saying that applies to just non-financial type of situations probably would help any future members.
Is saying financial too broad of a term?
Monetary?
Monetary.
Once you talk about financial and monetary, though, it's all.
Yeah.
I mean, if the money's going to leave the city's hands, you're going to come to the city's hands.
So the only thing so the time that we waived the rules was in regards to the police surge with ARP funds. So that was the hiring of cops, but bringing it back to 175 in the future.
It was already budgeted.
It was already budgeted for that year, and it would have been future years that it would have been resolving. So is that still budgetary? Is it still financial? Do I have to worry about my terms there? Because I was told ahead of time that I was going to be good with the sunshine law because it wasn't appropriating money on that spot. It was just a resolution.
What are the sunshine laws? I'd have to look at it.
Okay. All right, I'm just going to put a little note on that.
Yeah, let me double check that.
Okay. Any other questions about the agenda? All right, on to the order of business. As we did have some concerns from the public, it doesn't specify prayer in there. It says silent meditation, so that's not necessarily in the rules. I think that's just advising as to how that gets practiced in our meetings.
Is that something, and I haven't read the full, when this was last passed in 2009, if there was any additional details here, but around the silent meditation, is there any further definition of what that means, or that is on the president of how to conduct the silent meditation?
Even the prayer aspect of it, that wasn't done until Curtis Jones was in. That was when it was introduced back as prayer.
Okay.
It's not something that it has a 18-year tradition at this point, but it's not something by law.
Mm-hmm.
You may have better history than me on that, though.
No, you're right. But my concern, it seems to be a little confusing to ask a moment of silence and then give a prayer. To me, a moment of silence, I'm going to pray in my moment of silence. So it just seemed like it's the same thing. But matter of fact, on my 20 years, there's always been a prayer. Yeah. Even Mario said one. Yeah.
Under letter D, I know I said this before, when the citizens are to be heard,
Yeah.
I don't necessarily like that they have to give their address. I think in this day and age, that's a touchy situation to have to give your address to somebody publicly. I mean, you never know who's watching, who they're having problems with,
Yeah.
They might have moved for a certain situation. Now I'm here to talk, and I'm giving this and then we don't know if they're giving real addresses anyways.
Yeah.
We don't have no way of proving it.
Name?
Yeah.
First and last name.
Like for me, I think the clerk's office should have a record in case we ever need to go back and have a record of who was speaking. Maybe they said something and they left really early. I like having a name in some type of form, because Lori keeps a record of
Yeah.
the names and the address, so I like to have that type of verification in case we need to circle back to somebody.
How do we know they're giving, if I said, my name's Mo Troop, I live at Cherokee Boulevard, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, how do you know that that's my real address?
You don't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's an
I
honor
mean,
code.
most people are just giving,
Yeah.
you know.
A good amount of people do fill in the sign-in sheet. One thing
I
I've
like the
seen,
sign-in sheet.
yeah, I love the sign-in sheet. One thing I would personally love to see for when you do come up and give your full name is stating your municipality. Like just saying, I live in the city of Erie, I live in Mill Creek. Like that is something I've seen in a lot of other councils, just to simply state municipality, because we have plenty of people who don't live in the city, but they work here, they own property here, whatnot, and we are opening it to anyone. But I think it would just give us some perspective if we hear, like, not name and address, but name and municipality.
Do we want to require name?
Yes.
I think we have to.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the name.
Special circumstances, I think.
Thinks we have to. Does that sound like something that is a legal requirement of us?
You brought it up, how do you know they're giving you the right name?
Right.
I think they should give some name, because they are addressing you, and you want to possibly
Reach
follow
back
them
out.
there. And I've just thinking here, maybe there's people can make public comments, maybe there's, they can send like an email to the clerks, like afterwards, because like it is a good idea. If someone has like some insightful comments, you're like, I really wish I could have talked to that person, but we didn't have time.
Yeah.
Maybe have
Yeah, we have a sign-in sheet.
So
but
why
more than
don't
sign,
we-
let them know that, hey, we want you, if you want to do further comments, so that one of us can contact you afterwards. Here's an email address, goes to the city clerk.
Right, so why don't we just cut it all to one place and add a contact right on the sign-in sheet? And then
If they'd like further
if
contact.
they
Yeah.
like,
But do we need their name if they don't want further contact?
I think,
You know, we have some cases where they ask about it as a matter of they're
I think
concerned
they're
about
over
retribution.
18 and they want to comment,
They should give
they
their
drop
name.
a name.
Yeah.
You can't force them to be, for it to be the correct name, but,
So they also double check, but I think they have to at least give a name or something.
yeah.
I mean, even if they say, I'm just going to give you my first name is John.
So when you say we have to, is it because of the law that we write right here now? You know, that's the,
That's, well, this is something we're going to fix, or we're going to amend, I should say.
okay.
Also, I think this is one of the first time this is coming up in here, but in Citizens to be Heard, can we please take the suggestion of updating the pronouns so it's more inclusive throughout the entire document?
Yes.
When you talk at a county council meeting, you say your name and Mill Creek or Summit Township or what have you.
I want to go back up to point B, where it says Pledge of Allegiance and silent meditation. It spells out silent meditation versus prayer. So thinking about who we are as a city and what direction we're moving into, the current prayer I don't think is very representative of us as a city, the way it currently stands. But I do think that many of us within that silent meditation could show up as our within our beliefs and our systems. The way it's currently written, it says silent meditation, so I think you're kind of treading, like you have to make a decision. I think that's just how it reads.
Right, and unless, for example, the California State House before every meeting is a prayer, essentially, but each one is led by a different leader of different faith groups. So I was there at different times, and it was a Jewish rabbi, a Baha'i leader, a Pentecostal, all different. If we don't have the capacity to organize something like that where we're able to be inclusive, I think it being silent and us practicing whatever silent meditation means to us is the best way to be a welcoming place for everybody.
What if we, if we had when you come out here, you do the silent meditation, but in the back, before we come out, those who wish to pray, in the way we've been praying, can do it together before they come out here. But then out here, it's just silent meditation. And as Mel said,
So-
you're praying yourself. You know what I mean?
So, like I said, it's been a 20-year, now more than 20 years, even though it's not in the ordinance. But I don't see it. I'll just say this: if you have a Bali guy and then you have a Jewish guy, that doesn't change the inclusiveness of a prayer for any particular person on any given instance. Because if a rabbi came in today and prayed, what would or would that not mean to me? You know what I mean? So it's an illusion of inclusion, really. And so I just wanted that to be a footnote of the conversation. It's an illusion of inclusion. It's not actually inclusion. A prayer theoretically goes to the higher power, whichever it is contrived to. So I haven't witnessed the ones at the house. Well, some of them I have, and some of them stay right in the caveat of whatever their particular sect is, which would actually make it less inclusive as opposed to more inclusive. And so if you know, so as a person who's been giving the prayer for the past 4 years, it's always into the name of the higher power. If you you can go back and run the tape, you know what I mean? And so it is the most inclusive prayer that you can have because it allows you to determine where that prayer goes for you. So.
And I will say I'm not necessarily advocating that we have a different leader each time, but even just the fact that you lead the prayer with Dear Heavenly Father, that's not how I pray. And so if we can keep it as a silent meditation, and if there are folks who do want to pray together between caucus and the official start of the meeting, the gavel hitting, then I'm that is always welcome, but that personally isn't how I pray. And so if it is silent, I will pray silently myself. But I'm just saying from personal experience, like that is not, I am not sending that to the higher power in the same way that I pray.
That's a conversation for a different day.
Yes.
For Part D, I'm talking here. I do think that we should not allow the community to address individual council members. I think that's a bad idea.
I agree.
But I mean, that was
a suggestion.
Yeah, I think that
was a suggestion that they gave us.
I mean, that could turn. Yeah, that could turn. I mean, people do it anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, to allow it officially, like, I think that's a no-no, just in my opinion. But
I agree with you through experience here. I don't know who's going to sit up here and let somebody attack them. Not me.
and so why let's nip it in the bud by not even allowing it. You know, that's just. I mean, people come down and do it anyways. You know, so I mean.
Attacking is enough at the
The
grocery
council is a body. No person other than the member of council, the person having the floor should.
President, does that mean when people are called out and addressed, you will be shutting it down more frequently?
It's my responsibility to do that.
Yeah.
I've had to pick up the gavel on a few days.
Yeah.
So, we have. So,
Yeah, I know I've missed it a couple times. I usually try to keep it pretty, and some of the times they're directly addressing. It's like 50-50 whether it's nice or mean. So I've tried to keep some discretion to it as to if it's, you know, tried to keep some discretion on that. I think he's picked up the gavel at least 2 or 3 times this year because I missed it. Even when he's not. He's just the guy that's closest to it.
Literally, he's the guy closest.
I just see him reaching for it and I grab it myself. All right. Anything else on the order of business? Committee reports from council. We had some public comments about that. Each person not exceeding 5 minutes should be giving a committee report, and then adjournment.
Can we put in here, if the meeting lasts past 11 p.m., we waive committee?
No, we just have to make the meeting time earlier. Come on. Instead of shall be permitted, could we make it a little more, have a little more like be required to give a report?
Shall be expected.
Shall be expected. Because it's really our job.
Does anyone have any, we can't take votes, but does anyone have any reasons that they do not think that wording should be changed? So, on the topic of committee reports, there it says each member shall be permitted to give a report on matters pertaining to the councilperson's committee assignments. She's suggesting that each member shall be expected to give a report instead of permitted to.
What if you don't have one?
Sometimes you don't have a report.
That could be the report, though. There is nothing to report. And then, but then it's on record. That way, it's
Yeah, with liaisons, I mean, like you had your water today.
Yeah.
You had sewer on Tuesday, I guess.
Yeah, no, next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. So this upcoming council meeting, you've got both of those.
Yeah.
And then on the next council meeting, you're not going to have sewer or water.
Right.
So there would be a reason that you wouldn't have a report because you would be reporting on all your liaison responsibilities.
Right, but within like our ones that we are chair of, those to me are more ongoing.
Yeah.
Because they're not necessarily, I'm attending board meetings, I'm meeting with the chief of police regularly, I'm meeting with fire, like all of that. So it totally makes sense when it doesn't align with the actual authority or board meetings. But there's other work that we all are doing as of our chair positions.
I think if you have one, you give one. If you don't have one. I don't think I should be expected to come up with 5 minutes worth of nothing if I don't have anything. I think it's
Not to exceed 5 minutes.
right. So I'm saying
That's our limit.
2 minutes, 1 minute.
I got to start timing a couple of them,
You know
don't
what I
I?
mean?
Yes, you do.
I think if you have it, you should give it. If you don't have it, you don't have it.
I'm surprised that's the part you object to, Suzanne. You sure you don't want to object to that time limit?
I'm fine with 5 minutes, I just want it to be expected that we give a report every single meeting.
Right.
Even if it is, I had no meetings the last 2 weeks.
I might delegate that timer to Lori. She's got more experience with it.
It's fine.
I always appreciate your reports.
That's the city clerk.
Oh,
Shall be assigned responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And she's,
oh, that's on her.
yeah, we've talked a few times.
Oh, she's talked. I'm not surprised.
Wow. All right.
Lori's great like that.
What's that?
Talk to her.
Keeping it to 5 minutes
I'll
for the
let
committee
I'll let my face
reports.
be the whole reaction to that one. All right. Is there anything else on the on that? Okay. 112.11, President.
Just same pronoun updates.
Okay.
Want the president to let me know when I'm supposed to be in charge.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Communication.
More notice
Yeah.
or,
Just let me know.
okay.
I could have sworn I brought it up during the
No, you
solicitors
didn't.
meeting.
But it's okay. I'm quick on my feet.
Heard. Okay. Any other issues with presidency? Not the president, but the presidency.
The roles.
Man, people out there laughed a lot at that one. I think they got some input on that.
lucky for you, we've already decided they can't be addressed individually, so you're good.
All right.
The clear.
11212, permanent standing committees and liaison chairperson. The committee on the whole shall have a permanent standing committee of council. The president shall be presiding officer. Written reports. And then it goes on to say the liaison between council and various departments, bureaus, authorities, and then authorities and departments.
It just, this entire, like, section A, just, I don't know, it doesn't seem to be necessarily how things are happening in real time, is my concern. I don't necessarily have an alternative to offer, but it doesn't seem to reflect current actions.
That we don't write reports.
Right.
Yeah, it's weird in the electronic age because
Yeah.
we like shoot an email if there's an issue at one of our authorities or if there's some dialogue around that, but we're not exactly submitting reports for the record.
Right.
All right, I'm just gonna make a note to mess around with it and think about it more. Does anyone have any particular suggestions with it?
I think something more inclusive around like general communication. Because we are communicating, we're making calls, we're asking questions, maybe we're shooting an email or a text, but we're most certainly not making reports in writing.
Question. For tonight's, like a meeting like tonight, everybody's taking their own notes. Is it possible that, how will we make it a practice that at the end of a meeting like tonight, we are all emailed like, here's what we talked about today. You know what I mean? That way somebody has notes, that person has notes, but here's a rundown of what we spoke about in that meeting, that way everybody has.
So you mean like how Chris Merlette would do the report where he would type everything about what council was saying or what everybody was?
Like tonight after, like when we have a meeting at school, for example, like our principal at the end of the, like he'll be like, hey, here's what we talked about today. Does anybody have?
Just like a meeting summary.
Yeah, a meeting summary, right.
That would be so nice.
Right.
We just want to designate someone sort of like a secretary, a music secretary, or the nonprofit, or.
Yeah, there's a designated note taker, and then like somebody would, you know, that way we can have a record of what we talked about. We can go back and look at it. We can, you know, I don't know if that's just a thought.
Would that be our clerk?
Right.
What do we have to do?
And they're all recorded now.
Huh?
They're recorded on video
Is this
now as
video
well.
tonight? Okay.
So is this being recorded?
Yes.
Okay, so you can go back and
I'm
watch
sure you
it.
can utilize some
Yeah.
AI that would summarize.
AI could scrub it for
Absolutely.
us.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, if we could
True.
wait to put anything in writing until AI can do the work for us,
It
I'd be
probably
more
can do
comfortable
it
with
now.
that.
Yeah, it absolutely can do it now.
Yeah.
What is AI?
What isn't
Artificial
AI?
intelligence. Come on, check
This
it
is a
out.
better question.
Just kidding.
Who is AI?
Who is that?
That was like, okay.
Jacob.
Okay, almost.
We're getting some nice crowd reaction. We're gonna make sure we invite crowds to all these ones for.
All our meetings are public truck.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I mean, they just come
Which
to the
page
ones
was that on?
that they care about.
Last page.
Hey, so I do want to talk about 11212B with some with some frankness. When Liz became president, this is one of the things that she and I discussed before I took office, and like we were discussing what her agenda would be if she was to become president. And this is something where I think she did a heck of a job really cleaning it up for us. And with the committees with downtown and Erie Core and communications and information, I think those were like the more creative ones. But public safety is a department. Public works is a department. Economic development is a department. We have 5 departments in our city already. It may be nice because some of these get divided up into peculiar ways that the housing committee, for example, is in charge of streets, but not the public works committee. And there's some idea behind that, but and I think this is why we get so convoluted in caucus and why it's not so clear who it is that's responsible for what. We've got 5 departments, and I'd like to see 5 council members chair and be liaison to those 5 departments, which then leaves us one more department. And we have had requests to make a communications department or a human resources department. I also think one of the areas that's been the toughest for me to keep up with is the authorities and knowing when the different authority positions expire and board positions expire. Liaisons, that's a bit much to even ask liaisons to keep up with it in the way that we need it. We had a particular board that needed the entire board reappointed this year because they just missed it.
Over and over and over.
So I am asking for the consideration, and I would love to have criticisms and tell me why I'm wrong, please. If we could have liaisons to each of our 5 departments, where somebody is talking to Lisa, somebody is talking to Chris Groner, somebody is talking to Jackie, like that we go and that we have those 5 departments covered by one person each, and then a 6th wild card spot, kind of. Because some of this has been a bit much to keep up with as to where everything is, and I think it fits our other code 114 and 117 a little more clean if the council would be more organized on this as well.
Well, we might not even need that wild card, because if the president and vice president are splitting a whole bunch of things, then that leaves 5 department heads, and that's a pretty clean division.
That's a thought. Mel, I would love some of your input on that. You're the most experienced on this.
Authorities in the past used to tell the clerk, and I think they still do, and the clerk has a record of who's expired and who's coming up, and then she relays that to the council.
Yeah.
Is how it was done in the past.
Yeah, we just missed one whole one, and then part of this came up when we were trying to figure out some stuff with the CRIS, because I looked at Lancaster and they have a personnel committee that does all the appointments. Not all, they do all the appointments. They make sure that they're on top of it. So that was one of the things I was looking at there.
I mean, I support the idea of cleaning it up so it's easier to follow, and so that these department heads know that council wants updates before things are put on the agenda for us to approve. We would expect some type of report on what's going on. That way we know, so we can let our other council members know. But then it does get more so of the whole exclusion of you got to go through one specific councilwoman, person to know what's going on per department. So that's just something to consider. But I mean, I like cleaning things up, making it neat, easy to follow, so that the departments all make sense on who's technically.
It doesn't address the authorities and the boards. Those could still be divided to interests of particular council members. When we addressed it 2 years ago, there was some thought, like public safety had the convention center and port authority, because they often work with police, like they have their own police stuff. And then public works had sewer and water. And we switched, I know it makes sense, but there's some reasons why we don't do that now, or why it doesn't matter. I was trying to do some particular things with those. But when we switched and you came on, Brzezinski had he had some concern, and there was some major things happening at Port and Convention Center. So I made the judgment call to break it up in what made a lot of sense. So I'm admitting that the way this looks so scattered, I contributed to first thing I did. But I think the departments can just straight up be clean.
So essentially, you are going to rewrite B because of.
Not me, but I would like council to rewrite B.
Okay.
I'll probably be the one that actually is doing it, but yes.
Okay.
So that, because right now it's all at the discretion of the president. And I think that's somewhat foolish.
Could it be at the discretion of the president and vice president if they're both not given department heads? Could that be collaborative?
Yeah.
So I think that would depend on who the president is. Because technically, the vice president would have whatever the president assigns him, or to be in charge when the president is not there. So if we can't make a standing appointment for the vice president, it would be out of the order.
So I like the idea, I hadn't even thought of it, but president and vice president not having department assignments, and then especially with an at-large governance, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
There is some, let me point this out, there is different levels of responsibility. Public Works will be a more difficult assignment than economic development. Public safety will be a more difficult assignment probably than planning. But I understood that when we were dividing up the first time, and I asked for the one with the biggest budget, second biggest budget. I don't want to do public safety.
I think that's inevitable to some degree. But some would workload than others.
Mel, do you have thoughts on this?
Regarding Public Works, I've had Public Works for a while, and then it was broken up. And once it was split up, I lost a lot of contacts and information getting. When I had Public Works as a whole, I had an understanding of what was going on within the departments.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say whoever picks up Public Works should have Public Works, all of it.
Yeah. And this is now, we talked, you had shared that you wanted it to be a little more everybody being able to do everything, but I would love for, like, if a constituent came to me and said, hey, I'm having this problem in my neighborhood and code enforcement, I don't feel the responsibility to know every single code enforcement person, but if we had a liaison to that particular department, they'd be like, where's the person live? Oh, that's Higgins District. Let's make sure, I'll make a connection for you. Like, I would feel way more confident in council's ability to do that than, or even when it comes to public safety, knowing that, okay, Suzanne's liaison there, who's the, oh, you need to talk to, that's an inspector issue. She'll point you to Janice. I trust getting stuff done way more efficiently with more direct responsibility. Because right now, Public Works, to take example, Bureau of Engineering is in Public Works. That's on Mo. Streets, Parks, Code Enforcement, Golf, that's on Mel. Public Works, Radio Communications, that's part of Public Works because of it's at the garage, that's on Jasmine.
Yeah.
Brzezinski has Public Works with the fleet maintenance, refuse and recycling, sewer management. So we have 4 different council members doing Public Works right now. And I really don't trust anyone to do that,
So why don't we do this, since there's 5 departments, whoever the vice president is, or the 6, throw the vice president in and make 2 liaisons to that department, and they can divide the work up between themselves. And they could be a standing committee to make sure everything, gets communicated back to council.
There's still 2 other people on the committee as well. There's a committee chair, and then there's 2 other on the committee as well. So it doesn't have to be, like right now, the Public Works Committee is Brzezinski, but it's also Troop and Witherspoon.
Right, but I'm saying as far as liaison, make 2 liaisons to Public Works, and then they can divide it up between them, and then the committee would report, they can report to the committee or report to full council. And so since they are going to have the most going on, the most changing, day to day, week to week.
do we, we can't take votes on things, but I think this will be a pretty notable thing to change in the organization of council next year. So is this the kind of thing that, we can't take votes, but are people comfortable with me looking at this and maybe writing a little something up about it?
I would support it.
Okay.
Let me ask you a question. When a citizen has a complaint and they just happen to know me, I'm not the liaison. Should I call the liaison and have the liaison call that citizen? And if so, will the citizen think I'm brushing him or her off?
I get, because we have this little list up online, so sometimes I get a little bit of that. But it's a matter of, can you answer the question yourself? Have you, maybe, like, you've been liaison to everything in 20 years. So maybe there's some things that you could just handle, but then other spots where, you do brush it off to someone that knows that department better than you. Okay. You get whoever's best equipped to handle that. Now, in some cases, like I got a constituent that's a neighbor of Mo's that she's a little bit of a challenge sometimes, and I wouldn't brush that over to Mike because I wouldn't want him to have to deal with that one, Mm-hmm. and so maybe it'd be up to your discretion. It wouldn't be how you do your job as a representative of people.
I think it honestly would just open up opportunity for council members to talk to one another more often than just right before we're in caucus, because if one council member's in direct contact with said department and you want to know something because a constituent, you can reach out and find out that information so that you can deliver the message, or you can actually have the council person reach out to the constituent on top of yourself calling back saying, hey, I reached out to my colleague who actually is the head of that department. This is what I found out, but he's going to be giving you a phone call too, or she's going to be giving you a phone call too. So, I think it's an open avenue to have more communication so that at least you're being updated too, because you might not even thought that was something you wanted to know, but now you're curious, depending on what's being called about. So that's just how my brain works.
And I've already, without having maybe all of the information, I've already been practicing that. So if a citizen calls me with a public works issue, I give them both the Citizen Response Center number and Brzezinski's city number. That's already what I've been doing. I always say, hey, reach out to the Citizen Response Center. That's where this should go. But also, I'm happy to hear this. I don't have any info on this. And then I usually follow up with them in a month just to say, hey, have you gotten anywhere on this? And one guy got his old fence fixed from that's just been what I've been practicing already.
Yeah. This year's been hectic for me, and for some of you that have asked me about next year's type stuff, and I've been like, I'm writing my dissertation next year and not doing this stuff again. This is a big part because most of those I end up just handling it myself because I don't have a clear enough direction to delegate it.
Yeah.
So let me repeat, let me rattle off the 5 departments. Everyone feel confident they know the 5 departments? All right. So we got 5 departments. We got public safety, public works, we got finance and administration, we've got planning, and we've got economic development. The department directors, that's for the person that's in charge of those departments, in the finance and administrative department, that's Lisa Gummersall. Public safety, we changed that ordinance earlier this year so that the bureau chiefs can act as the director if there is no director, because the ordinance had previously said the mayor stepped down into the role of director. Mm-hmm. So public safety, we've got Walco and Spizzarni on there as the chiefs. They would be the directors on that. We've got Jackie Spry now as the planning director. Economic development, we've got Groner. And then public works, we've got Chuck Ziss.
Point of clarification, Mr. Groner is not the head of our city economic development as
Yes, he is.
Huh?
Yes, he is. He's the director.
No, he's not. Deb Smith is. He just we gave the hybrid office that they run out of the county all of the money. So it appears like he's head of our economic development, but he is in fact not.
We have some other ordinances to update then, if that's the case. All right. Now, this is, and I think that's, you see this last one, the proper liaison chairperson together with the council president shall review the official agenda prior to the caucus session meeting and notify the office of the mayor in writing or any department directors or bureau chiefs or any other employees whose presence is requested at the caucus meeting. So at this point, I don't feel that we've been streamlined enough to do that effectively for our caucuses to be valuable. I do feel a lot of your concerns about our caucuses not being as effective as they could be, and I think that's the issue that I think is the biggest.
If they want it passed, they'll be there.
That's true.
We're at an hour and a half now. Do we have any other things to discuss? Because we usually try to wrap these up in an hour.
Last page is updates that happen.
16, 17. Adjournment, supplementary rules, review of budget. Yeah, no, we have some important things on this page. Robert's rules, everyone good with that? Review of budget. Anyone have any questions about that? Our semi-annual basis got postponed this year from July to, what was it, August? That was just a request they made of me, and I said,
Okay.
yeah, we can make that work.
And I'm just curious, is the water and sewer called out in that way just because of their role as authorities? Should it be other?
No, because of their, what's the name of those budgets? Funds.
So because we assign the prices for the water and the sewer authorities.
There should probably be other ones in there, like the golf fund and some of
Right.
those things.
Like all those ones that Lisa gives a breakdown
Yeah.
for, can we add those in?
Yep. Add golf, stormwater now.
Yes.
Man, what are those budget things called? Come on, somebody here's got the experience better than me to know this. That's gonna drive me crazy.
What are you asking?
The golf fund, stormwater fund, water fund, sewer fund. What are those funds called? They're called something different. That we have to use them, and it's by state law that they have to be like revolving in, they have to be contained.
Does it call them out in Lisa's finance reports?
Yeah. But I just
want
don't
to
remember the
remember
word. My brain's not working. I don't like it when that happens. All right. So adding a couple items to that. Any other questions about the review of budget? Seminar and conference reports.
Has that ever happened?
Yeah.
You're supposed to do it.
Yeah.
I've done it.
Yeah.
Did you do it at like during committee report time or
Yes.
presentation? Okay.
But also, I handed it in to the clerk.
Oh, nice.
Oh.
Shall file a detailed written report. That's so vague yet so specific. I think if you want to keep that, you might want to get some clarification on what exactly you would like them to write to you. Like, there's a great conference, went to Disney, like, yeah.
Like a form that
Right.
has like,
Yeah, that's what we do at my work for anyone who does any outside professional development. It's just like a template.
right, so if we had a form that said, had like specific things,
Yeah.
we just fill it out.
That's probably an administrative function more than a legislative function, but we can do that too.
Just whatever we want.
Okay. All right, is there anything else to the order? All right. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.